Hi, my name is Virgil and welcome on Mitwi. Today I'd like to give you an explanation on how to print Wood PLA on both Prusa Mini and Industry V2 with a 0.4mm nozzle. I really like to print wood because it looks great, it smells nice when you print it, but it can come with a few challenges. So the main two problems that you can get is stringing, so a lot of filaments that's crossing your print and looks ugly, or to have the nozzle clogged, so the filament cannot be pushed anymore through the nozzle. This can happen in the middle of the print for no reason and you don't know why. So I spent the past year and a half to try to figure out what works best to print this wood over and over again with the same quality on both my Industry V2 and my Prusa Mini. I use Cura as a slicer for both of my printer, but the settings I use can probably be applied to any type of slicer. The first most important parameter was to use the combine mode on Cura. What this means is that the printer will try to stay as much as possible on your print and will never go out and inside of your print. So if you have a nice model and you don't put a lot of things on your printing plates, the printer will always stay on your print. And this way the outside of the print will look very nice and you might have a lot of stringing inside, but you don't really care because nobody sees it. Okay, so combine mode limits stringing from the outside. Then there's still the problem of the clogging. And for that, I played a lot with the retraction settings. The retraction settings is how much the filament is gonna go back into nozzle and at what speed between each layer that your 3D printer is printing. So with higher temperature, between 220 degrees, it's harder to limit the stringing because the filament is hotter. So if you don't retract the filament between each layer, every time it moves, it will create a string. So you need to play a lot with these retraction settings, how fast and how much needs to go back to try to limit the stringing. With lower temperature, so between 190 and 200 degrees, you can even go down to 185 if you have an enclosure, then there is much less stringing because the filament is less hot, so it doesn't continue to go out after doing a layer. But you have much more chance of having a clogging. With the retraction going in and out all the time through the nozzle, I had a lot of print that fails halfway. And the only thing you can do is take out the nozzle and try to clean everything, the tube, the nozzle, the part between the nozzle and the tube, and so on, to be able to reprint again. So what worked for me is lower the temperature, 190, 200 degrees, no enclosure, or 185 with enclosure, and then to not have retraction settings. So if you don't have retraction settings, the filament always push one direction. It never goes back in the nozzle and it doesn't create clogging. Or at least until now, I haven't created clogging this way. And because you have low temperature, you don't need as much these retraction settings because the temperature is low, so there is not so much filament that continues to go down if it's not pushed through the nozzle. So this is what I get at the end of the print. Then you still need to do some brushing. So you take your brush, you scrub as much as possible as this small filament. And what you can also do is take a hot gun and try to hot it up. This will make all the small string go away. It's just don't heat it up too much or you might completely destroy your project. For my lamp projects, the last thing I did was a 0.2mm high. There is a 0.28 line width with a wall line count of 3. It means 3 times 0.28 on both sides with nothing in the middle. This creates a wall with a total thickness of about 3mm. There is no infill. So this way the light can shine inside also as well, so there is more diffusion and it looks nice afterwards. Alright, so if I go back to my tweaks, combine mode, so the printer stays on the print, less stringing from the outside, maybe from the inside, but you don't see it. Then low temperature and no retraction settings to not have clogging and limit the stringing. Those settings worked for me great on both Industry V2 and Prusa Mini with a 0.4mm nozzle. I hope you enjoyed this video, I hope you've learned something, and I hope to see you next time.